Hello everyone and welcome to Human-Computer Interaction Chapter 2 course. So for this chapter, we will be discussing about the specific HCI guidelines, or what are the different guidelines that we need to consider in order for us to develop a really good software, a really good system. Okay, so specific HCI guidelines. Let's start with our first guideline. Okay, so the criteria or categories for HCI guidelines. First criteria is the user type. As for the user type, its main categories, it involves the age or generation, the disability or accessibility, the gender, the consumer group, the occupation, the culture, and the country. So when developing a system, you must consider who will gonna use your system, what is the user type, or who are the users. Okay, so for example, if your system is for the kids, the elders, the visually challenged, or the baby boomers, is it for the student? Is it for the parents? Is it for the estheticians? Is it for the athletes? Or etc. So it's very important that when you decide to create a system, you must identify the user type or who will gonna use your system. Okay, so that is our first guideline. Know the user type, know the user who are gonna use your application. Okay, next criteria is, okay, let me, yeah, next criteria is the platform or system setup. After knowing who will gonna use your system, you must know what which platform or what would be the setup of your system. Okay, so its categories involves, would it be mobile or handheld? Would it be a desktop application? Or would it be a large display of virtual reality? Would it be embedded or public installation or operating system or network? So you must identify the setup of your system. Okay, so examples for that would be smartphones, pad-like device, desktop, kiosk, embedded OS, cloud-based navigation systems, personal game players, queuing systems, and etc. So this is very important that you should know what would be the system of your system, okay, before creating a really good HCI design. Okay, and next for that, next criteria, the vendors or the organizations. Okay, so the main categories involves, is it in the private, public, or design style or identity. So examples for that would be NASA or Korea University. Is it for the Android? Is it for the USDP? Is it in iOS, Windows? So you must know the organization. You must know the vendors. Right? That's one of the most important thing also before creating a good system. Okay. Again, first that we need to consider is the user type. Next is, let me go back again, the user type, the platform or the system setup, and the third is the vendor's organization, and the fourth one is the interface style. Okay, the modality, the technology. Is it a whim? Will it involve windows, icons, menus, pointers, or non-whim? Or is it in 3D or multimodal? So it's kind of very, very important also to consider that we need to know the interface style. Okay, so the interface style, the modality, and the technology examples for that would be voice or oral. Your application has this voice features, voice command features, the gestures, is it single or multi-touch, tactile or haptic, multimodal, menu-driven, GUI, or digital widgets, visual perceptions, and etc. So it's very important also that when designing a really good HCI, you must know the interface style. Okay. let's move on with the next criteria, the task or operational context. So again, in the previous presentation, we've discussed that when creating a system, you must identify the different jobs or the different tasks or what are the different features that your system will going to do, how it will going to solve a problem. Okay, so for the task or the operational context, the main categories involve the location or the place, the time, the noise, lighting, readily constrained. Okay, examples for that would be office, outdoor, road or street, home, automobile, subway. Is it for the classroom? Is it ice-free, hands-free, handedness, and etc. So it's kind of very important that you should identify all the tasks, all the jobs that your system will going to do. Okay. Next, next criteria, application. What kind of application would that be? Is it for the gaming? Is it a game application? Is it a media or information? Is it an electronic e-commerce? Or is it for the design or editing? Is it a social network service? So you need to identify what kind of application will gonna solve a problem. Okay. So I think this is the last. Okay. No, this is second to the last. Okay, so after knowing the application, you must know this next criteria, the general HCI design. So in general HCI design, it just involves the display layout, the information structure and navigation, the soliciting input, and as for the soliciting input, it is just the application of forms where it gets the details of the user. So as you may have observed, all applications have forms for you to fill out and yeah, for you to send your details. And the information or output visualization, very important. The design process and practices, the user experience, okay? Was it good? Was it nice? And then the general aesthetics. Okay, so that is the main categories of the general HCI design. So those were the different criteria and the different categories when creating a really good interface. So if there are things that is not really clear to you, you may go back, you may replay the video and then just watch it again. Okay. So next topic is the examples of HCI guidelines. So what are the different examples? Okay. As for the visual display layout, the display layout should be such that it is organized according to the information content. Okay, example, importance, sequence, functionality is sized manageably. Okay, it is divided into proper sections. Okay, and is attention grabbing and is visually pleasing. Is it nice for the eye? Is it a, does it have a really good interface? Does it are everything is aligned and with restricted use of colors? Kasi baka gumamit ka na sobrang daming colors. Parang ganon. Okay. So in a visual display layout, the guidelines for that would be avoid cluttered displays. Okay, imagine yourself as a user browsing this system, and then there are cluttered displays. How would you feel? Okay, so you might end up closing the application if there are some color displays or there are displays that you don't really like. Okay, and place important items consistently. Okay, and then place important items at the top center. Okay, for example, what is the most important item? Let's say the navigation. Okay, where are you going to put the navigation? It should be at the top center wherein the user can easily click it, can easily navigate to it. Okay. Structure for easy comparison. establish level of importance. So what are this section? Unsa imong i-display ani nga section? Next section upon and next section. Next section. So you must have established the level of importance. And then optimize display density. Align items on the page. Dapat hindi dapat wala na siya nagkagubot sa imong mga items, no? You set appropriate page length. So your page, one page should not be too long. Dapat hindi siya sobrang taas kasi the user gonna bored, if there are too much information he's seeing in your homepage. Okay? And then use frames when functions must remain accessible. So as you can see, we have this example here. The navigation is at the right corner. Okay, the items are, are displayed appropriately. So the alignment is good. The color used is good. So it should be pleasing. It should be visually pleasing. Okay. Next, information structuring in navigation. This is very important. All systems, as you may have noticed, there are navigation, because it would be very hard for the user to, access the pages if there is no navigation or menus in your system. So as you can see, we have this example. Okay, if the user wants to uh, check the different campuses, just going to click here, and then if the user wants to contact, contact the administrator, he can actually go to the contact us or check the different faculty and staff and etc. So as this example, it has your system must be properly structured, and the user must easily was able to navigate your system. Okay, so that's very important. There should be structuring and navigation. Next, taking user input. Okay, as this is one of the most important things, because it would be wait, okay, it would be wala siya pulos if nagbuhat ra kang system na dili ka magkuha og details gikan sa user. So as you may have seen, that the clever designs for taking user input or raw information or system commands can improve the overall performance in terms of both time and accuracy for highly interactive systems. Okay, so of course, as you may have noticed that when you use a system, you need to create an account. So there's a form that you need to fill out, and then there's a login page where you need to enter your username and password. There's a button, etc. Okay, so what are the guidelines when you take user input? First, consistency of data entry transactions, minimal input action per user. Of course, we don't like na daghan kayo pag i-fill out, right? And daghan kayo buhaton. No? So, minimal memory load on users, and also compatibility of data entry with data display, and clear and effective labeling of buttons and data entry fields. Okay? It should be properly, labeled. If it is for the first name, last name, or email address, something like that. And then match and place the sequence of data entry and selection fields in natural scanning and hand movement direction. And then not place semantically opposing entry or selection options close together. As for example, you put the save button, then the undo button, imo silang gipag-abay. So the user, gusto ni user na mag-save, pero iyang na-click is undo. So na undo, so something like that. So it should be properly put together. Okay, design of form and dialog boxes. So there should be some design that is really good and pleasing for the eye. Because pangit man kayo kung walay ka design. So as you can see in here, the form has, placeholder na name, email, address, ano siya. So the buttons are properly labeled. Okay? So that is when you take user inputs. That is for the form. Next. Okay. Users with disability or user type. This is a user type, okay? So when developing a system, when creating a system, it should be, there should be options wherein users with disability can actually there are some features that they can actually use. Okay, the guidelines for that would be it should be perceivable, meaning it provide text alternatives for non-text content. Okay, provide captions and other alternatives for multimedia. As you can see, YouTube now has captions, right? Okay, you create content that can present it in different ways, including by assistive technologies, without losing meaning. You make it easier for users to see and hear content, so it should be perceivable. And next is operable. When you say operable, you make all functionality available from a keyboard. So it's not really good that when you develop a system, um, na ay mga parts na dili mabot sa keyboard. Okay? So, for copy and paste, Control C and Control V, dapat tingnan ana makaya na niya. Okay? And give users enough time to read and use content. Do not use content that causes seizures. Help users navigate and find content. So there should be something like something like a feature that we're gonna help the user. And next, understandable. Okay, it must be user friendly. It must be quick and easy. Make text readable and understandable. Okay, so the font sizes must not be too much small, must not be too much large, must be readable and understandable. Make content appear and operate in predictable ways. Help users avoid incorrect mistakes. Okay, and lastly, for the users with a disability, it must be robust. You maximize capability with current and future user tools. Okay, so there are a lot of tools that you can actually use. We have this example. We have this example in here. As you can see, um, this website has this option. This option is for the visually challenged users, wherein the user can actually change the colors of the background and the foreground. So there should be some features like this. Okay. Next is the mobile device. So as you may have noticed, as you may have seen in all applications, that whether that is a web or mobile applications, they're all mobile friendly. Not everything or the system can now be used through using mobile phones. Okay. As for our guidelines for that, it should be fast status information, minimize typing, and leverage on varied input hardware. Examples: buttons, touch, voice, handwriting recognition, um, virtual keyboard, and etc. And then you first task focus for less confusion in a highly dense information space. Large hit targets for easy and correct selection and manipulation, and efficient use of screen space with condensed information. So as you can see this example. Also, or as you may have noticed on when you actually use Facebook or Messenger or Instagram or Twitter, I believe you always use that, no? Halos every day. And as you may have noticed that you can actually navigate everything quick and easy. Okay, so it should be something like that. They should be properly buttoned. Okay, right. Next, e-commerce. One of the most example best application that is everyone is using today is an e-commerce. Okay, if you have an online business, so I believe some of you have an idea what an e-commerce is. So you have been using Lazada, Shopee, and a lot more. Businesses actually today are transforming into online. So that's an e-commerce. Okay. So if na may mga idea and you wanted to, create an e-commerce application to it, then it's your choice. Okay, so I believe you have learned something for the HCI guidelines, and we are now on our summary. Okay, wait. Okay, let me go back here. Okay, this is the example of an e-commerce because I think na post ang screen sharing kanina. Okay, let's move on with the summary. So while most of the guidelines, specific or general, seem quite straightforward and are easy to understand, incorporating them in actual design and implementation is very difficult. It is indeed really difficult, but if you have familiarized yourself onto it, it would be more easy for you. Okay? And many guidelines are still at quite a high level, similar to the HCI principles. So if you don't know yet the different HCI principles, then go back to our previous video, the chapter 1. The HCI principles was discussed in there, okay? And leave the developer wondering how to actually apply them in practice. Another reason is that there is just too many different aspects to consider. Yes, indeed, there are a lot of things that you need to consider, especially for a large-scale system. So sometimes the guidelines can even be in conflict with each other, which requires prioritizing on the part of the designer. Okay? And who is this designer? It is you. Okay? Because you're the one who are gonna design your system. For instance, it can be difficult to give contrast to an item for highlighting its importance when one is restricted to using certain colors. Okay, example, for a corporate identity purpose. Another example might be when attempting to introduce a new interface technology or touch gestures. While the new interface may have been proven effective in the laboratory, it still may require significant familiarizing and training on the part of the user. It is often the case that external constraints such as monetary and human resource restrict sound HCI practice. So there is no straight answer to how such conflicts can be managed and how to incorporate all the requirements simultaneously, particularly under stringent external constraints. Wait, constraint. Under stringent external constraints, one must realize that all designs involves compromises and trade-offs. Experienced designers understand the ultimate benefit and cost of practicing sound HCI design. In spite of the acknowledged aspect of black art to HCI design, in which good judgments are made by experienced developers, the HCI guidelines still help greatly to ensure overall usability and performance. So it's very important that you must understand the different guidelines in order for you to develop, in order for you to create a really good HCI design. So I hope you have understand something, have learned something for this video, and I hope that you will familiarize yourself with the different HCI guidelines. So thank you so much, and we'll proceed with the next chapters. Have a great day, and God bless to everyone.